who wants to share some cool weekend news? Anyone have any fun doing some real estate stuff or some non-real estate stuff?
Hey, Bill, I had a closing on Friday that took 30 minutes, so that was awesome.
Why did it only take 30 minutes?
It was a cash deal.
Very cool. All right, and where did you find that customer?
It was from the sale that I did in the end of August.
Beautiful. So you helped
they bought a house.
You helped them sell back in August, and now they're buying, right? Or now they bought. And you must have been so good that they had all cash?
Correct, with the equity.
Were you so good that they had all cash for it?
Yes.
Good stuff. Congratulations.
All right.
Thank you.
Pam, I haven't seen you on Zoom in forever with your face. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Now she
so much for that.
It was short-lived. It was short-lived. Okay. Who else wants to share?
I will. I have a client who's done probably 6 transactions over the past 3 years. And that's about $60,000 worth of income for me. And he's just the nicest guy. Some of you have met him at the open house. Anyway, his birthday was Saturday, and he and his sister just sold their mom's home with me. And so I invited his wife, his sister, her 2 girls and their husbands, and we all went to a Mexican restaurant. We had the best time. And so they just were just like, you're our realtor for life. And so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 families that could be potential. Well, I know he'll be more business and who they know and so on and so forth. And the two girls and their husbands, one couple they're both teachers. And then the other daughter is a teacher, and her husband, I'm not sure what he does, but because they were sitting at the far end of the table, but we had a great time.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
The thing that popped into my mind there was like, remember, that is like a data windfall, right? It's like throughout the whole, evening, they're going to be talking about, things that they're interested in and things that are happening in their life and things that they're excited about and, stuff with their family and all that stuff. So like, you just need to be like mentally recording all of that stuff, or maybe like sneak off to the bathroom and like brain dump it all so that you can be ready for the, what's going to happen over the next 30 minutes, right? Be like, okay, she's going to Georgia Tech. They love to go to Destin. He plays golf. She likes Auburn, whatever it is, right? You got to get it all somewhere. So, so you can make that next, dialogue or next time that you speak even more meaningful. Cool.
Yeah,
good stuff, guys. All right, I want to do a tiny bit of housekeeping and then we'll jump right into the CMA. Okay, first off, remember that I did spend a little extra time on the email yesterday. So there's some new video, well, not new videos, but kind of newly highlighting these videos for both pipeline, database ideas and creation, and segmenting the database, right? So a great task, great project that you should be spending a little time on between today and at the end of the year is just getting that database more and more detailed and more updated and data filled, if you will. So, as you're going through your database, you could tag people appropriately. You could, reach out to them, make sure that you have all their contact information, make sure you're following them on social media, that kind of stuff. So that at the beginning of the year, we can, nothing's saying you can't do it now, but just to kind of start fresh to make sure that you're communicating with everyone systematically. Also want to remind everyone that today or yesterday was the end of the first week for reporting purposes. So thank you to the couple people that I see on here that have already done so. And for everyone else, if you could just take a couple moments, whether the numbers are big or small. The last two months, we've been great at production, but we've been absolutely horrific at reporting. And they like it when they see big numbers on the production side, but they do not particularly like it when I am like, okay, well, we had 5 listing listings taken last week because no one's reporting. So please, let's recommit to just spending a couple of moments to keep score. Let's make sure that you have a moment at the end of each week where you're basically saying to yourself, hey, all the things that I did last week resulted in this. Is this acceptable, right? And if the numbers are low, I got to assume that if the numbers were high, you would already reported them. So let's assume for a second the numbers were a little off. This is a perfect opportunity for you to say, oh my gosh, they're a little off. So maybe I need to, rearrange how I spend my time in the next week or a couple weeks. Okay. Also, don't forget that Wednesday from 9 to 11:30 is the first step to bold. The first step to bold. The first step to bold is 9 to 11:30 on Wednesday. I will probably do the morning huddle. Well, I guess I'm going to have to do the morning huddle from the college. So I'll just hide away somewhere and do the huddle until 9. We'll have a hard stop at 9 and then walk right into the bold space. Okay. And then don't forget, tomorrow we are making the more formal announcement of Emoto Photo, who is one of the most popular, I guess you might say, photo companies in town. Candace was working overtime to make sure that we solidified a PC Roswell discount. Oh, you're the best. Isn't Melody the best? Come and say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone.
You guys.
Hey, Melody.
Melody, how are you?
We love you, Melody. We love you.
Hey.
Melody, I'm coming in later. I'm the opportunity desk this afternoon.
Okay, perfect.
I'll see you.
Melody surprised and delighted me today.
Oh. Well, he couldn't wait.
That's right.
Bill, question about the bold thing on Wednesday. That's at some technical college somewhere. Is that right?
Yeah, it's called Lanier
right?
Technical College. It is off of I think it's 3410 Ronald Reagan Boulevard in Cumming. It's real close to the exit, or 400 exit. I posted the address in the email yesterday. Yep. And it's been in the daily newsletter for a little while. So it's
so it's not a Zoom deal. It's in person.
It is in person. It is
right.
in person. It's a big room. Obviously you can feel free to wear your mask. Yeah, we're going back to in person. So hopefully everyone will be able to join. Wednesday's session is completely free. It will, just so you know, there will be some sales in there. Okay, there will be a bit of some pressure to join. She's gonna do what she does to help make sure that you don't miss out on this opportunity. And while I'm thinking about it, actually, Lorinda, are you in a place where you can speak? Okay, Lorinda, I want you to comment for a minute on your experience with Bold at the end of last week. We'll come back to you if you're not in a place where you can speak. Okay, Greta says, the financial planning video on systems references some documents. Where can I find these? One of the documents I know that I referenced was a document called the expenses worksheet, and I added that to the email yesterday. That document is basically a rough template of all of the different categories of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent that follows the specific budget model for different, cost of sale, operating expenses, et cetera. And then it has all of the months, and then it has the total. So it can be neatly organized for both you to look at your P&L as well, profit and loss, as well as your CPA. Okay, we'll come back to you in a second, Rolindra.
It was really good, by the way, and anyone that didn't get to see it.
What do you feel bad about?
Oh, that's okay, Mike. Greta, go ahead.
It was a great video. I wish I could have been there in person. But if you didn't get a chance to see it, watch it. And that document, I've struggled with how to organize my expenses, and I'm super excited to get my hands on that. I think it will be very helpful.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I'm glad it was helpful. Couple of questions or comments I want to make on that. Number one is I'm posting the YouTube video right this moment in the Zoom chat. So take a close look at that. The expenses document I emailed yesterday as a part of the big weekly email. Greta, if you go back and you find that there's another document that I referenced that I'm not able to recall at this moment, just let me know and I will send it to everyone. And by the way, if there's ever a document or kind of this idea that you're trying to like flush out, or you're looking for a system or a model or a template or a spreadsheet or something like that, I got to tell you, if it's a spreadsheet, I almost certainly have a couple versions of it. Okay, I probably had one for 2012, another one for 2013, right? If it's spreadsheets, I got you. So just ask for what you need, okay? And if it's something that I don't have a copy of, I could probably get something very quickly from the top 20 group, where we can build one together, okay? I also put in a new link or a link for the daily success tracker, just to kind of remind you of all the things that I'm asking you to track and of all the things that I want you guys to pay attention to each day. We have a very simple way to track that and to help you take notes from all your activities all week. Lorinda, are you available now to talk?
Having difficulty getting in, Bill. I just sent her the Zoom link, so let's see if she can get in that way.
Okay, cool. So we'll come back to her then. Any questions on anything we've gone over today so far? All right, she's here. Lorinda, would you mind sharing? It's real cracky. Would you mind sharing your experience in the bold session last week?
It was awesome.
Okay, it's really, really, really loud in the background.
Okay, come back to me because I need to walk to my car.
All right, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you shortly.
Okay.
So Lorinda basically told me I'll give you the 3-second summary, and hopefully she'll be in a quieter place here soon. She said, if that bold program is anything like that early session that I went to, I am gonna love it, right? And she came from another company, and she said, I've never experienced anything like that before in terms of training. So for those that started at KW, I've said this 1,000 times, you guys just don't know how lucky you are. So take advantage of all the opportunities that come to you, okay? All right, let's move into some talk on CMAs. Actually, let me double check. Oh, I think I would cut myself off in the middle of one thought. So Moto Photo, the rep is going to be joining us tomorrow morning for our morning huddle. And she's going to go through kind of what her company does and how to reach her, of course. And then she's going to explain the specific discount that is only possible for productivity coaching clients in Roswell. And I think, or I'm going to push her a little bit for this if she doesn't volunteer it, just to kind of speak about photography in general, right? What attracts people to houses or different photos or angles or light. I kind of want it staging. I want to hear a lot of these kind of concepts so that you guys can, appreciate what these photographers do. And hopefully you figured this out by now. The first thing that they look at is the price. The next thing they look at is the photos. And if the photos and the price don't match, they don't go. And if they don't go, they're not going to buy the house. Make sense? So we want to make sure, number one, the pricing is tight, which we're going to go over in a second. But secondly, that the photos are as great as can possibly be, right? I mean, I literally have seen photos where the rear view mirror was in the corner of the photo because the agent wasn't even willing to leave their car to take the photo. Have y'all seen that before?
And conversely, Bill, yeah, and conversely, I think photos should not be misleading. I've seen photos where they have a 30-foot tripod and a home that's up a steep hill looks like it's on flat land, and you get there and you're like, what? I need a winch to get up there.
Yeah. We'll talk about photography integrity probably a little bit tomorrow too. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real fast, and then I'll walk you through exactly how I approach pricing. All right, can you guys see me?
Not seeing it yet.
All right, just a quick reminder, you guys, I still have all these. What in the world?
double click to enter full screen mode. No.
All right, there we go. Can you see me? All right, just a reminder, you guys, look at all these cards I was willing to give away last week. I didn't have a single person come and get any. What does that mean? Y'all don't want to write notes?
I've already got 200 of those.
Well, you're planning on writing more than 200 notes in your whole career, right?
Well, I guess so.
All right, come pick some up when you come in today now. I'm giving them away for free, for crying out loud.
Okay. Well, I'm coming in today.
Good. I might give them all to Michael if y'all don't come and get them. Okay. I have this. You guys ever seen this before? Okay, let me see if I can.
No.
All right, this is called the 4 Conversations. I got some real pretty laminated copies of them. I think I have like 7 or 8 of them. And what it is it has your goals, this month's goals, and your this month's actuals. And the idea here is it says listing appointments, listings taken, closings, and profit. So this is kind of like your, it's kind of like when you go to the doctor and they take your blood, and what they're doing is they're measuring, 7 or 8 things in an effort to determine if you got any other problems that need to be, examined, right? Hey, this level is high in your blood, so we got to give you this pill because this is your problem, right? So this is kind of the same thing. This is like your success panel, if you will, right? If these numbers are off, then there's probably something we need to re-examine in your business so that we can fix it as quickly as possible. So this is also the reason why, by the way, we track the things we track, is because everything lives and dies by the number of people that you meet with, right? So if you're not meeting with enough buyers and sellers, then you're not going to take the listings, which means you're not going to have the closings, which means you're not going to have profit. Make sense? So if you would like one of these, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think I have 11 or 12 of them. So if you'd like to come in and get one of these, you can have these for free too. Okay. All right. So Greta was kind enough to, Lorinda, just when you get a second and you're in a better spot, just put your hand up and we'll give you the floor. Okay. Okay, Greta gave me an address this morning. So I just want to kind of walk you through how I would price a property. Now, let me give you a little bit of theory first. The initial theory is that, well, let me ask you guys, who sets the price? Or let me rephrase that. Who determines the price of a home?
The market.
And what does that mean, the market? What does that mean, Pam?
Well, it means that, you'll either get showings or you won't, which indicates that it's too high. And if you get enough showings, you should get offers.
Okay, so if the price is too high, the market is telling us what? Or the market will tell us what?
That they don't think it's a good value.
Good. And what is value?
That there are other homes that are better values.
And how do you define value?
What I'm willing to pay for a home.
In relation to what?
What others are priced at. What I see in others, not just price, but condition and location and all of that.
Okay, so it's the idea is we're not setting, yes, we are setting a price, but really what we're doing is we're determining value, right? So it's important to, like, let's say 2 homes are priced at $500,000. And one of them, if you looked at all their stats, right? How large is it? How many bedrooms, baths, school district, level of update, a condition level, you know, how old are the systems, all that kind of stuff, and you compared it to the other one listed at 500, they're both priced at 500. One is more, quote, valuable in the eyes of the buyer, right? And that's the one they're going to pursue. So the only way that your home is going to get selected if you're a seller is if the value of that property, which is essentially a combination of the features and benefits for the appropriate price, is more impressive, right? It's kind of like saying, is anyone, let's say Ryan, I can see your background. That like china cabinet that's behind you, right? That doesn't look like it came from IKEA, did it?
No.
Couldn't you have gotten a china cabinet at IKEA that looked kind of like it?
No.
Let's pretend you could.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
I'm sure they've got something there that serves the same function.
That's what I'm getting.
I do have another china cabinet from IKEA in another room. So yeah.
Okay. This is good. This is even better then. So
okay.
You've got two different things in the home that serve the same function, right? A home is going to have a place for people to eat, and a home for people to sleep, and a home for people to congregate, right? But you chose to put that one, or to spend more money on that one, right? Maybe because it was going to hold more valuable things, or it needed to be more sturdy, or it was going to be more of like a presence in the home or something like that. Is that right?
Right.
And then the one that's like in some back room that maybe just holds some old books or something, then that's IKEA is good enough for that, right? So you, as well as pretty much everyone else in the world, is willing to pay more for certain things that they determine to be more valuable, right? So that's one point I want to make. The other point I want to make is that just the fact that there's a sale at all, a lot of you guys have heard me say this, would imply that there is a difference of opinion of value, right? So if I sell, let's say, I sell a guitar for $500 to Michael. Michael believes the guitar is worth more than $500 because he'd rather have the guitar than the $500. I believe the guitar is worth less than $500 because I'd rather have $500 than the guitar. Does that make sense? So that's how a transaction happens in the first place. So there is no like quote definitive value number. It's a range for everybody. The idea is you want to put that product out to the market with a price that is going to attract the right people, right? So for example, let's say you priced a home at 500 on the nose. The people that are looking 500 and below, that home's going to be the most updated, the largest, the newest, et cetera, right? It's going to be probably the most impressive of the properties that are on that list. The opposite is also true, right? So people that are looking 500 and higher, that home that was just like amazing is going to be probably one of the least impressive homes on that higher list. Y'all see that? So it's really important that when you're doing this analysis, that you're not just looking at the details of each individual home. You got to look at how it's going to appear in the entire marketplace in general. Make sense? Okay, because somebody's going to have, let's say, roughly $500,000 to spend, and they're going to have to determine which home is the best value. So let's kind of go through what some of those thought patterns might be, and as we're kind of getting closer and closer to understanding what this property might be valued at. So just so I have a little bit of background, Greta, I see that this is not a property that is currently listed. What's going on with this one? Is this one that you're courting the seller?
Yes, this is one that the neighbor, we found out the neighbor sold her townhome off market for a really, really large price. And
Okay.
Now we're contemplating, do we want to do the same and downsize?
And what was that price?
$950,000.
$950. And how do you know it sold off market because the person that you're speaking to knows that person?
No, because she called and asked me to look it up, and then I looked it up. I couldn't find it, so I looked up the last time when it sold, found the agent, called the agent up, said, "Hey, I understand that you sold this property before. Did you happen to sell it again, and would you mind sharing the price?" and she did.
And what's that agent's name?
I don't know it off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Is it written on, is it one of those agents that you see right there?
It was 105. No, I don't remember it all, honestly.
So let's just, while I'm thinking about it and while you brought it up, see this column right here where it says listing agent name? So these are the players in the neighborhood right now. So Jerome C. Newell. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Let's go back.
How'd you get that to show up?
Yeah, that's where I'm going back to look.
Okay.
Oh, how did I get it to show up?
Yeah.
Oh, does it not show up on yours?
No.
Okay, so that's a default setting. Gosh, I haven't played around with that in a really long time. Pam, do you know how to do that?
I think I have changed a few settings. So if that's something in there, I'll find it. I can't remember how I got to it either. But
all right, let me. I might be able to show you in 1 second. So what I did is I went to the normal FMLS page. Okay, I looked it up, and the neighborhood that property address in is called East of Main. Okay, so I put East of Main right here. Oh, there's Pam. I selected all just so I could see the whole picture of, you know, actives, expireds, holds, etc. And then I went back a full year for closed rather than the 6 months that it defaults you to. Okay, and then I put in results, or I asked for the results. Now there is another neighborhood you can see that's in Cherokee County in Woodstock, same name. So I'm just going to get rid of those really quickly. So you want to make sure that that's one potential issue that you want to make sure that you are, you know, taking a close look at, so that you don't include that in like a short CMA or something, and it, you know, throws your pricing off. Okay, so all of these particular properties are in Alpharetta. So if we look at the listing agents' names right here, oh, here we go. You see this little square with the pin in it? It says manage display. And this thing to the right of it, set and clear defaults. That's how you can adjust the defaults. So if you wanted, for example, to see, you know, days on the market, or if you wanted to see closing dates or closing costs paid or any of that kind of stuff, you can set it up where anytime that you do any stuff on FMLS, that data will appear. Okay,
and
so
sorry, I was switching over to my computer. I'd gotten back home. I was going to add that, and then once you do this drop down, where Bill says my : and then it gives the name of it, that my in front will be there, meaning it's one you created, as opposed to FMLS's default versions that they have. So you would
where do you see, oh, right here.
Yeah. And that
gotcha. Okay.
And that down arrow would show you everything. But to add a field, you need to, like, wherever you want the field to go, in essence, you click on the field, you know, right by it. Or you
like this.
No, not, you're moving it, but yeah, you can move it. But basically click on that field.
Okay.
Or not click, hold on. Let me try it here a second. Yeah, I think you do you click on it, track.
Oh, so that like puts it, you know, ranked from earliest date to latest date, or highest price to lowest price, that kind of thing.
When you get the 4 corner thing, whatever you call that, scroll around there.
What 4 corner?
When you're up on that top, you know, where it lets you move it.
Oh, this? Yeah, that.
Now try it. Click at that. Now you can insert a column.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Okay.
Yeah, and then you see how it has a search. You can search on what you think it might be called or something, or you can scroll through the way Bill is. And that's how you.
Okay. So let's say, for example, I wanted to add the selling agent in here. So I could see, like, by chance, if I happen to know any of the selling agents, right? Selling agent full name, apply. All right, cool. So now I see these are the people who worked with the sellers, and these are the people who worked with the buyers. So for example, if I wanted, you know, some more specific insight on any of this data, nothing's stopping me from saying, you know, Hey, Lynn, this is Bill Linkwald over at Keller Williams. Congratulations on your sale, back in January on 115 Cumming Street. I just had a quick question for you. Do you have a moment? Right? Hey, it looks like this room opened to this room, and maybe there's this room that you didn't call a bedroom, but that some other people are calling a bedroom. Can you clarify that for me? Right? So don't hesitate to call any of these people for help. That's how you build relationships, right? Just so you know,
Hey,
yeah.
What is non-MLS and MLS?
Non-MLS is like when they are potentially not a member of FMLS. So like some brokerages, usually like really small mom and pop brokerages, maybe are not a part of FMLS. And so when the agent is saying who brought the buyer, if they are part of a brokerage that is not officially part of FMLS, that's what you would see. Okay.
Or could it also be a non-represented buyer?
Yeah, I suppose it could. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, so a couple things that I would start with. Number one is these are the people who know the most about all these sales. Is that fair to say? So you might say to yourself, hey, if I got some questions, maybe I'll reach out to them, right? Amy Turcotte knows a whole lot about this community, right? So if I had an off-market deal, then I might call her and say, hey, did you hear about that 950 sale? I got another one that's even better. You know anyone that wants to move to the neighborhood? Give me an offer I can't refuse, or I'm going to list it for everybody. See what I'm saying? Right? For example, Katie Rocco's in North Atlanta. Call her. Terry Ehrlich's in Chat North. Call her. I've done just like 3 or 4 agents on this list that I've done a transaction with in the past, right? So what does that tell you? There's a lot of agents out there, but it's still a very small community. So every deal that you do, I did a deal with Diana Montague like 7 or 8 years ago, right? And it was a nice deal. She was good, I was good, right? So I call her and say, hey, Diana, remember me? I'm the one that helped you sell that listing over in Decatur or whatever, right? And she's like, oh yeah. So, hey, do you mind answering a couple questions about this neighborhood for me on East of Main, right? If you've had a great relationship with them, that data comes freely. If you've had a poor relationship with them, or you got angry, or you weren't thorough, or you weren't professional, or was slow to get a hold of you, and these kind of things, they're not going to bend over backward to help you. Does that make sense? Okay.
And Bill, by the way, if I were sending golden letters out, this would probably not be a neighborhood that I would choose because of Amy's presence in the community. It would take a lot more than a golden letter to maybe usurp that.
My hunch, though, yeah, my hunch was right. So Amy works for the Providence Group, who was the on-site sale agent. So that's a nuance there. So that's why you should. She's not following up with any of these people, right? And the majority of her relationships were on the seller side, which means, a lot of her relationships were on the builder side, the seller builder. So she probably doesn't have a great relationship with any of these buyers because they were brought by somebody different. You see what I'm saying? So you want to look a little closer at the details to see. So
I still probably wouldn't send a golden letter there because it's too new.
Yeah, a lot of these sales were in the last year, right? So you'd want to see, see if you can. I'd probably spend money on something else, to be honest. Yes.
Yeah, it's a new neighborhood that was developed within the last 4 years.
That's right. Exactly. Okay, so let's go back to the values here. So one good thing we know is that there's a withdrawn listing and there is an expired listing. And what I always like to do is with withdrawns and expireds is go back and see, did they, were they relisted or did they ultimately sell, right? So what I can see here is that these are 2 properties that, like this one was listed July 23rd, 110 Academy. and it hasn't been listed again. So this is somebody who owns a home that at one point had a desire to sell it, right? Now I'd send a golden letter to that one, right? Or give them a phone call or knock on their door, right? 100 Cricket Lane, same thing. They had a listing expire back in March or back in May, and they have not relisted. So again, that's another seller that had a desire to sell, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And that might be somebody that you want to get into a relationship with, right? So this is that, where I'm showing you a number of different value pieces and value places that the agent can bring or you can bring to the deal, okay? So let's get rid of those two. Oops. Let's get rid of those two and let's analyze the sales, okay? Now remember, all these are sales that have occurred within the last 365 days. And I think it's relevant to first start off relatively broad and then go a little narrow, okay? So.
Bill, I got a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did we choose detached homes when you first came?
We did detached and attached. Which one is this?
Okay. One? It is attached. It's a townhome.
And they're detached properties in the same community?
Yes. Those Cricket Lanes are, I think they're patio homes or garden homes.
Okay, cool. Thanks for pointing that out then. So I unclicked detached, which means that all the ones we're going to be looking at are attached, just like the subject property, okay? So let's go back to results. Okay, this gives us a little bit of, okay, so what we see here is this is the only attached property that has sold in the last year. Is that what you had found, Greta?
Yes, I was having a really hard time finding, because it is new.
Yeah.
And the location, it's a mixed, some town, some attached, some detached, some on the main drag, some back up in the neighborhoods, a lot of other lower end neighborhoods very close by. Mm-hmm. It makes it a lot more difficult to, determine value.
All right, so let's go back and let me show you, make sure everyone caught what I just did. So we went and we said, we got rid of detached. So only attached properties are being included here. Okay, I saw that there hardly was any data. So I'm going to go back a little bit longer. I'm going to say 1,000 days. Again, I know a comp from 2 years ago is not going to be particularly helpful, but it's going to give me a little bit better of an idea of what's going on. Okay, so again, I'm going to go and delete the ones or exclude the Woodstock properties. Refine, narrow. Okay, so these are the properties that have closed over the last 1,000 days. Okay, and the newest one with the most recent closing date is, actually, these ones at the bottom right here closed in 2020. So 556, 600, 635, 567, 689. Okay, and then you want to, of course, go in and try to figure out, size. Like you could add square footage here. You could edit based on number of beds and baths and these kind of things. Okay, Erin Blanchard, for example, is in our office. Okay, so this might be a really good resource. She was the buyer's agent for this particular one that closed in last year, July 6th of 2020. So I can't express to you how important it is to work your relationships. Okay, so I would probably call her and say, hey, tell me a little bit about your experience over at 505 La Chasse Lane, right? What else were you guys looking at, right? How did you guys determine the price? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that doesn't bring you, mathematically to a number. It's just the extra context involved. Okay. So just so I'm clear, that 950, how does that compare to these right here? Because 950 sounds insane.
Well, that's what I'm noticing in the MiltonAlpharetta. If you look at the dates, I'm sorry, I know this is way off of like a normal comp, but if you look at dates and everything closed last year, and we're at the end of this year, you got a huge amount of time, like for equity growth to happen.
Yeah.
And if you look at I pulled just the Martin Runs because that's the street that it's on.
Okay.
And they're all pretty much the same. I mean, like they're townhomes, they were built same time.
Yeah.
You know, we went back and looked it all up. I've been in her unit. It is really nice. And I think it's, you know, you can look at the property, the building, but I think a lot of the value is on the location because of where they are located. It is literally like a 300-yard walk to downtown Alpharetta. And consequently, those homes have just escalated more than a lot of the other areas.
Yeah, I hear that.
If that makes sense.
But all of these sales still have that in common. Right. So that one's
right, but they're also a long time ago in this real estate market.
But are we thinking that the values went up 50%?
We're thinking that if you did 20 to 30% year over year, you get pretty close to that.
Okay, so let's look at it a slightly different way. Okay.
Okay.
Let's start to look at some of the other indicators of value, whether indicators, right? So let's go to Zillow. Zillow says it's worth 737.
Right.
Okay, so let's go to Redfin. Okay, I'm going to go to the tax records here in a second. 115, Martin Run. Remember, I in my opinion, and I don't know if this is a popular opinion or not, this one says 693. Okay, I think that some of these numbers are now, I used to think they were on the high side. Now I think they're more on the low side because remember, Zillow can't say the home's worth 950 and then turn around and give you a cash offer for 750, right? They're like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. So now I think that there's probably some manipulation within the value algorithm because it needs to match with their iBuyer price. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So both they're stating value and then they're giving you an offer. So there's probably going to be some more alignment there than was in the past, right? Now we can also go to public records and see what's going on here. Lorinda, are you in a better spot now? While we're waiting for this to pull up?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
It's less than perfect, but just talk a little louder. We should be good. Tell us a little bit about
good morning. I apologize for the disconnection. Go ahead.
I was going to say, tell us a little bit about our conversation the other day and your experience in the old room the other day.
So Friday, I went into the conference for the pre-bold class, and the information that she gave you was just overwhelming to me. I've never been.
It's not much better. I might have to do a little private Zoom with you or something like that, or record our conversation so we can post it for everyone to hear.
Conversation of the sheet that we've all received with, it says memory joggers.
Yeah.
Well, the way she went into just jogging your memory, it was like exponential. It took it one step further. So if you thought about your doctor, okay, well, what about the nurses, the hygienists, everyone that plays a role in the doctor's office, not just the doctor. And so the way she led you through that thought process, I hadn't been exposed to, or I hadn't heard about it. Some of the other things is she had scripts and experiences. She forced us to
stay right where you are. All right, we'll come back to that. So the tax records say 614.
Exciting. Yes.
All right, we're going to try one more time at the end.
That's
okay.
about it.
We'll try one more time at the end because you were coming in and out a bit. Okay, so the tax records say this is 614. So no one has really caught wind of this 950 sale. That's my that's a little bit of my fear here. So
yeah, it just happened within the month.
So do you know who there were no agents involved at all?
There was a selling agent because I called and asked her how much it sold for.
And
there's one that sold for $950 at 74 Academy Street in that same development. And it was sold by agents. It wasn't, I mean, it was a resale and it sold for $949.9.
In the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's not it sounds that sounds like one of the patio homes.
Oh,
because those go like $1 million and they go really high.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah,
that might be an interesting thing to look at, is look at one of those that sold and then look at the percentage of price increase. Because the problem I'm running into is with these new neighborhoods, and there's been a 3 or 4 year period with no resales. You know, you can look at kind of what has happened and extrapolate, well, there's been a growth in value or equity of this percentage. Can I overlay that in some manner to get an idea? Do I think her townhome is worth $950? It is, if I can get someone from California or New York who's interested in it, and maybe that's what happened. But is it worth in the upper 800s? I'd say yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's test that theory. Let's test that theory. Okay, so what I would do here is, so let's set the stage a little bit better. The last couple of sales are back in the 6s, right? All the value estimators say basically in the 6s somewhere. Okay, then we have a sale that's way higher than that, 950. Okay,
right,
is more than 50% growth, which is pretty nuts, right? So what I would say is, let's go in and say we want to be roughly we want to be very close to this Alpharetta Square, right? Because we believe that is a big part of the draw for this particular neighborhood, right?
Yes.
So let's say 1 mile from Martin Road.
You got to be careful with that, because there's some pockets of $200,000 home.
Yeah,
300.
We're not going to look at that though. I'll show you what I mean. So here's the map search, just real quickly. This is where we're looking. Okay, so downtown Alpharetta is basically right here. This is a 1 mile radius in each direction. So it's going to go, this is your circle right here. Okay, so now we believe that on the low end, let's just say it's 550. And on the high end, let's say it's $1 million. All right. Yeah. Okay, 1 million. And we want to know, let's look at active under contract, pending, and closings. We'll keep the 6 months here. Okay. So we want to go and say results. So now we have some additional context here. Okay. So up to between 550 and 1 million within a mile of that particular property. So theoretically, all of these homeowners can brag the same thing. Hey, we can walk to the cantina. Hey, we can walk to the park, yada, yada, right? So now there's no separation between one of the most valuable factors in this particular property. We could even go and search by year built, although pretty much all of these are in the last couple of years, right? So this should show you a couple things. Number one is there's only 3 active properties available. Okay, now here's one of them. This is in a community called Atlee. So you should go be an expert in Atlee in order to price this properly correctly. So I'd go in and look at the sales data for Atlee. I would.
Yeah, it's also the Providence Group.
Yep.
Right. So is that one too.
The Maxwell, right? So I would go into this property. I'd walk around, I'd take some pictures, I'd take some notes, preview it, and ultimately what you're trying to do is compare it to the subject property. Hey, if this one was on the market for 671 and this one's on the market for blank, what does this one have to be on the market for in order for me to choose this one over this one? If I were to price it at 671, are they going to pick this one or this one? If I were to price it You see, that's essentially the bottom line here. If I were to price it the exact same price, which one would the person select? Now, this is also a new construction neighborhood, which means there may be some incentives involved that you should be aware of in terms of being comparatively, your marketing presentation, right? So $5,000 in closing cost if you use green brick mortgage, which means that again, that's part of the decision. You can buy this house for $671 and get $5,000 if you use their lender, or you got to buy this house for whatever I'm considering listing at. Which one do you want to buy? That's the bottom line. So with that in mind, I would become very familiar, because there's a lot of money at stake and you're going to get a pretty large commission check from helping this family, right? So it is your job to go become familiar with these comps. Okay. Now another one, here's 148 Canton Street. Now this is kind of in between the numbers that the automators say the value is and what this other sale happened at, right? Mm-hmm. So here's 890. So what ended up happening here, right? I might call these agents and ask, hey, Rory, or Ronnie, I'm sorry, what other communities did you look at, right? How did you guys come up with that price? Okay, so let's look at the listing history here.
Yeah.
One sec. So this one was listed for $890 on the 27th of September. And 3 weeks later, it went under contract. They did not have to reduce the price in order for it to go under contract. So what that means is that that particular buyer could not find a better opportunity given their specific criteria and needs than that one. So this was the best of the bunch. That's why they pursued it, right? So you can look at the pictures, you can look at the size, the schools, the details. It's an end unit, the level of finish. I mean, a lot of these are all going to be pretty well, high-end appliances, hardwood floors, high-end, tile work and lighting fixtures and these kind of things. You're basically looking for, 2 and 1 in the basement. You're confirming the school district, you're reading the notes, you're looking to see how large it was. You can, of course, go in here and say, this might be helpful actually. If the home is not brand new, so the seller here is the builder. But for example, there might be some sales that are resales. So then you can go in and say, hey, well, back in 2017, it was, I think this is what you're alluding to, Greta. Back in 2017, it sold for $650. Today it sold for $850. So does that mean the difference is how much they've appreciated in the last 4 years? Perhaps that might be where that's probably part of the puzzle, right? The more data you have like that, the more, the more you can kind of support your ultimate number. Okay. So we can go in here and see, this is not a good example, but I'll show you what I mean. So for example, if it had sold, okay, so let's say that this was the original sale and it was the builder sold it to a person and then the person sold it to somebody else, we would know what the value was at that moment and we can extrapolate what the what it might be now. Also, interestingly enough, it says this one says 882 as the value. So they're using a little bit different data to create their opinion of the value. All right, I feel like we're kind of speaking mainly in kind of theory right now, but this is a big part of it.
Exactly,
Is a big part of it. Okay, so let's keep looking at this list. Number one is you better not even suggest a price before you walk into these 3 units, because this is what you're competing against, right? You got to understand what's here, so that if you were to price it at 800, it better be worth over $100,000 more than these, right?
I'm gonna also say, if you notice, they've had a price increase. Those things keep going up and up and up. They go up every couple of months.
Yep.
And also, we could look at the pictures, we could go in them, but the walk is very different. The walk to downtown is hugely different between the two properties. What I'm learning from this as I go through this again, having done this with you once before, is that there's so many factors beyond just the pictures. And you're right. You need to go see the area, the location, you know, what is the draw? Where are they going? It makes a big difference because the one that's in the 890, that walk is more similar to the one of the subject property than those two that are in the high sixes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, some people might not care. It sounds like you might be a person that does care, but it's worthwhile to examine that 100%.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I'm noticing is that Lana Efremova is an agent in our office, right?
Hey.
So she had a closing the end of July of this year, where she was the listing agent for this property in the Foundry, right? So you call her up and say, hey, tell me a little bit about your experience with this particular seller. How did you come up with the price? How did the market respond to it? Do you happen to have any leftover agents that maybe they submitted an offer and did not win? And they might be interested in knowing that this property is available, right? So yeah, I mean, I see exactly what you're talking about in terms of the walk to downtown Alpharetta. Your subject property is a good bit closer.
Well, you don't cross traffic.
Exactly.
Well, and this one's an in unit.
I think yours is too, isn't it, Greta?
No, I don't think it is. Okay, it's next to.
Okay. So the other thing that I want to, let's go back to, I'm going to show you one more thing first, actually. So you go into all of these properties and these are pendings, right? So you have pendings in the mid sevens, low sevens, high sixes, mid sixes, low sixes, 1 million, right? And I think you're going to start to see some trends. Like as you get up in the nines and the millions, you start to see the homes look a little bit different, or they're larger, they have more amenities, or they have better finishes or something like that, right? And then you can start to go into down in the lower sixes and see what is available. One thing I might also try to do is, I don't think I've ever personally tried this, but I'm pretty sure it's possible. Pam, you might know about this. If there's an off-market sale, can you add that a certain way to FMLS, just so it serves as a comp without having to pay a fee?
No, I don't think so. And appraisers will not consider it.
Oh, really?
Right.
Yeah, appraisers will not consider an off-market sale because it was not subjected to the full market conditions.
Right.
It could have been sold to their father who wanted to,
bump up
give them more for it, and this was a way to do it without being charged taxes. Or I'm not saying that is true, but yeah, go ahead.
So what happens when the property, it is listed on FMLS, but it's been there for 0 days, no pictures, no anything? Is that a reliable comp to use? Like, because to me, it's kind of like that would be in the same boat of an off-market property.
I hear that.
I think without pictures, the appraiser is going, from what I go to every appraisal class possible. And I try to talk to, as many appraisers who will talk to me. And from what I understand, if they don't have the pictures, they have no idea what the condition of the house it's like. So it's difficult for them to use it. And I know there are some people who remove all photos once it's, just before they send the closed information to FMLS, the listing agent will go in there and remove all the photos except that front one. And appraisers, they need more information than that.
Right. That could be for security reasons too.
Yeah.
Right.
Some do it as a matter of course.
Right. It's like, hey, you walk in the door and if you go to the right, you can get to the kitchen that back way or whatever. Maybe I'll use that when I'm breaking into the home next time. Yeah.
Right. And that's why some claim that they do it, but I think, but they sure do like to use the pictures, of the ones who leave them in there for comps.
Right. Hopefully there's two lessons I want to instruct you on here. Number one is, I think I agree with Pam. You should be in every single appraisal class you can possibly get to, because this is at the heart of everything we do. This is our main job. It's helping buyers understand value, and it's helping sellers understand value. And everyone's opinion of value is different, right? I think I've said in here before, like my wife literally gets like a headache when she goes outside the perimeter. Like she doesn't want to live up here, right? So she doesn't value anything up here. She just doesn't want it, right? So everyone's got their own opinion of value. What I think the biggest takeaway here is that it's complex. And in order to understand where a home should be priced, most importantly, you need to know what it's being compared to, right? Those are the actives. And then you look over here and you say, well, here are the pendings. So these are the winners, right? These, you could assume that these are the best values, or these were the best values in the marketplace when they went under contract. So I'd go in here and I'd say, hey, what does this one look like? What are the details for this one, right? I might call some of these agents, or I might go into some of these new home construction neighborhoods and see what the walk is like, see what the amenity package is like, because you might come out of that meeting and say, hey, the Maxwell's amenity package is like nothing compared to the Atlee's or this other one, right? And so now all of a sudden you say, well, Maxwell's not as impressive. So if I've got a unit that's similar in this community, that I should be able to get more for the home, right? The other thing,
Bill,
yeah,
quick question on that whole amenities and the whole pending. The pending, we don't know what it's sold for. We have a good idea, right, within a little bit. And I had a friend that bought, and she's like, I can't believe how much I went over when I went to the design shop. So she went in at a base, and then she ended up spending significantly more to get the finishes and amenities she wanted. And that's just with the new sales, that's kind of a thing to consider too. You really don't quite know yet with the pending.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's true. But sometimes if you call the agents, it will give you some idea. If you call the listing agent on it, sometimes they will give you some idea. And I especially look for ones that are from KW, just because I think, or like Bill has said, if you've had a previous relationship with them, of course. And, you know, I just would say something like, you know, I'm trying to, you know, I've got a seller wanting to sell in the neighborhood, and we're trying to come up with price. So pendings, and that's what you learn in class with appraisers, is pendings, especially in this market, are the best indicator of value. So if you can find out what it's sold for, look to see if some of them are close to the closing date, or and call those agents, you know, things like that. And sometimes, you know, I ask, and I'm not offended if they say, you know, I can't tell you that. I'm just like, fine, I'm just trying to get an idea. Would you say it went for above or below list price? Would you say it was more than 25,000 above list price? You know, things like that.
Gotcha. And you have multiple offers.
Yeah. Did you have multiple offers? How many offers did you have? Yeah. You know, exactly. Things like that are what I ask them, you know, to try to, and some of them will say, well, I can tell you this, and they'll give me a pretty good idea. And some will flat out tell me everything.
Yeah. And actually the majority of them will flat out tell you everything.
So I missed a little portion of that. When you're asking those questions, are those to the ones that are closed, or are those to the ones that are pending?
What, either, both.
But why?
But closed, we already know the information. We have it in FMLS.
You're right.
So I'm making these calls.
You're right.
I'm making these calls to pending.
I don't think that's a dumb question. I think that there's, all you get when the deal closes is the number of, you know, the date it closes, then the final number. Right. You don't know whether there was any other details. You might say, you might call them and get some valuable information from that. You might call them and say, hey, I got a listing coming up. I'm just working on trying to figure out the exact pricing. I'm curious. Did you happen to have multiple offers? Do you have a list of the agents who didn't win? Would you mind if you shared that with me? Right. And then you call all of them and say, hey, I got a new listing. You want to come and see it?
Okay.
Right. I mean, I've had that happen before, where I called an agent the day of closing, And I said, hey, I've got a listing coming up in a week or so in the community. I'd like to know what the sales data is. And she said, great, I'll call you in a couple hours once it closes. She called me in a couple hours. She said, hey, I didn't tell you this before just because I didn't want to jinx anything, but we also had a backup offer in place that now I'm about to have to call and say, hey, y'all didn't win. We sold it to the original person. Would you like that contact information of that real estate agent? I said, yeah. And thing was under contract before the next day.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So again, I cannot express to you enough. You got it. You should be in the habit of collecting, just like you're in the habit of kind of collecting potential buyers and sellers. You should be in the habit of collecting relationships with other real estate agents. Okay. The other point I want to make here, which is super important, and then we'll go, is I think that here is a pretty clear fact, and which is the more people you expose the listing to, the more opportunity for better terms you will have. Okay. For example, let's just say that 950 buyer was waiting for a property to come on the market in that neighborhood. And when they got wind of it, they paid more than they needed to pay. And they basically probably bribed the seller with a higher number than they probably would have ever gotten on the open market. And that was the only way they were going to guarantee that they got the home, right? My wife and I did that on this last, well, actually both of the last two houses we bought off market. And we basically put so much money out there, or I shouldn't say so much money, but we gave them more than likely they would have gotten on the open market because we didn't want it to go to the open market. You follow what I'm saying? So if you take that, Greta, let's say you take your seller's property and put it on the open market, if there is a buyer who would have been willing to pay $950 for that property, they'll show up when the home is listed. There's really, honestly, I don't see a whole lot of reason to sell a home off market. I don't see the point of that. If the buyer's waiting for the home to pop up, then they'll see it when it becomes listed. And then they'll have to fight the other 8 billion people out there that might want it. And the more people it is exposed to, the more likely you're going to get better offers, lower closing costs, faster closing, less contingencies, less requests for home warranty and this kind of stuff, right? Because everyone's going to have to fight it out. And your job as the representative of the seller is to get them the best terms, right? And to protect them. That's how you get them the best terms. So in short, Greta, I don't think I would sell it off market. Okay. By the way, the reason that story I just told you where we went under contract off market within a day and I was on the seller side, they paid 15 grand higher than any comp had ever been. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure, and this is years ago, when there wasn't really multiple offers going on, right? So I was pretty sure that the seller was going to got more there than they would have gotten on the open market. But if they're just going to pay market value, they need to duke it out with all the other potential buyers. Okay, so let's put a bow on this. It's really important that you understand what else a buyer will be looking at. Okay, so the way you figure that out is you pull up a list just like this, right? You try to identify what is probably the major characteristic of this property that's going to drive interest, right? So it might be walking to the town center, it might be the school district, it might be, you know, the age or a basement or something like that. And you try to basically figure out when the buyer's agent sends this home to their prospect, and their prospect is going to select their favorite ones from that list to go look at, what else will be on that list, right? And then you go and become familiar with those properties, what's active, what's pending, what's closed, and say, if this property were to come on the market for $950 today, what would happen, right? So what we know is there's nothing on the market between 700 and $1 million right now that's active, that's within walking distance. Now, is that because the market doesn't bear that? Or is that because it's just a shortage? Well, it looks like the market is willing to do that. Those homes are right here. So what's going on in the boundary versus where my subject property is at? You see what I'm saying? Freddie, you always give me these like tough ones, right? Can you give me like a little like 2.5? in like a
I
neighborhood
only
and
get
like
the hard ones. I need help with them. I only seem to get the ones that are like some weird, shrimp boat thing on the roof or whatever, and I don't know what to do with it.
well, truthfully, I'd rather have that at 900,000 than some easy one at 325, right?
I'll take in.
Hey, Greta, I'm sure we got 10 people on here that would that will be more than happy to deal with the complexities of pricing this property, right?
So I have another question before we leave. Okay. So being that the market is kind of somewhat slowing up and changing, like if you're on the buyer's end of it, like 6 months ago, 3 months ago, we're going 10,000, 15,000 over. Like if you're looking at a comp and let's just say that there's nothing that's sold within the last year, you have a couple of pendings, you see where those pendings are at, but of course we don't know where they're closing at. How do you effectively tell your client what you should go in at, kind of going up enough to whereas you're competing, but not to whereas if you're overpaying, like, because you don't want to look. And then it's just like, damn, those pendings, that agent only, that other buyer's agent, they only had their client go up 2,000, but now you're closing after them and you didn't went up 8 or 9,000. So how do you just gauge that?
There's a lot of commentary in the stuff you just said. So a couple things. Number one is we don't make the decisions. We share the information and we ask them to make the decisions. So when they say, what do you think we should do? You say, well, if we do this and you win, are you going to be happy? If we do this and you lose, are you going to be happy? Right? So you might think that like it might be appropriate only to go, let's say $5,000 above list price, but that may not win. And so if they really want the home and it might take going $9,000 above list price to get it, then your recommendation might cause them not to get it, right? So your job is not to make the decision for them, it's to help them gather all the information that they need in order to confidently make it for themselves, right? So the question really becomes is, what's more important, that you get the home or that like, here's the thing is they're never going to know what it's going to take until they put a number out there, right? And assuming that they have a due diligence period, if they get it and, the number is crazy and later on they change their mind, they can leave the deal without penalty, right? So the first priority is getting it. You got to win first. Nothing else matters unless you win, right? So if, let's say the home's listed for 500, let's say every piece of data out there says the home should be priced between, let's say 480 and 500, and it's multiple offers. Well, what do you do? Okay, well, maybe we need to go to 505. Well, there's no comps to support 505, right? But maybe you need to go to 415 or 515. Well, there's definitely no comps to support 515. So is it worth it? Well, I don't think it's worth it. So I'm going to bid 495. Okay, well, you're going to lose. So it's kind of like, are you willing to move the market to get what you want? That's essentially the question. Are you willing to be the highest sale in the neighborhood so that you can get this home right now? Which, by the way, everyone else will see that comp and you will now have moved the market upward. So the next sale is likely going to be beyond you. Are you willing to be that guy, in an effort to continue to, push the prices upward? Does that make sense? So like at some point, as the prices increase, a few things have to happen. Number one is a buyer's got to be willing to overpay, if you will, right? And then the appraiser's got to be willing to sign off on it. So does that mean that every single person is overpaying because the prices are continuing to escalate? You can make a decent argument for that. Do y'all see what I'm saying? So at some point,
it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I tell buyers, offer an amount. If they really want the house, I say offer an amount that if it sells for $1 more than that, you're like, fine, it wasn't worth that to me.
That's right.
I love that. I got that. Bill uses that one. It's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is the heart of the question right there is if you believe that it's worth 500, yet you're willing to pay 505 for it, great. Are you willing to pay 506? No. Okay, cool. So if you lose and somebody else buys it for 506, how are you going to feel? well, I'm going to feel like crap. I wish I would have bought it for 506. Okay, so 506, that's your new highest and best. Now, if somebody buys it for 507, how are you going to feel? Well, I don't like that. Okay, so 507 is your highest and best. Okay, so if somebody buys it for 508, how are you going to feel? 508, what a ripoff. Okay, then 507 is your highest and best. You see what I'm saying? So you have to play that game with them because they need to think about this process in a similar way, right? And here's the deal is at some point, one of two things is going to happen as you continue to ask them those questions. Number one is they're going to run out of money, right? They're not going to be able to afford, continuing to go up. And secondly, they say, well, gosh, I can't prove it to myself that the price is there, right? Hey, would you be willing to pay 540? 540? That's 50 grand higher than anyone else has paid. Yeah, I know, but do you like the house enough to overpay for it? Well, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, so we'll go find something else. So don't be so attached to the outcome. Remember, the relationship you're most interested in is the one with the buyer. If the buyer feels like you're pushing them in a particular direction, and really the seller too, then they'll start to not trust you. They'll be like, this dude just wants a commission. Quite frankly, I don't care what house you buy. Now, I don't want you to buy a dump because you're going to call me in a couple of years to list it. Hopefully. Right. But if you don't like house number one, okay, I don't care. Get back in the car. Let's go a different one. It doesn't make a difference to me. You see what I'm saying? Or is this helpful for everyone today?
Oh, yeah.
Very. I think the more that I hear it, the more it sinks in and I start to understand it a lot more. So thank you.
So, okay. Thank you for sharing that. That exact phrasing is what you have to share with your prospect. Because we're in this all day, every day. The prospect probably hasn't bought and sold a home in many years. So you have to help them think about value the way that you think about value. So they don't get too carried up in the math, and they don't get too carried up in the emotions. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if somebody's going to say, well, gosh, the last person paid $184.64 per square foot, and you're asking me to pay $185 a square foot, I'm just flat out not going to do that. Okay, well, you just won't win then. How many homes are we going to need to lose before you decide to participate in the market?
Right.
What were you going to say, Michael?
I just had a quick question for Pam. She had mentioned that she takes a lot of appraisal classes, and I was just wondering where do you find those? So are those classes in the office, or are they offered by FMLS, or where do you find those?
Well, first of all, most of them I've attended have been in our office. But DS Murphy also offers classes. You can look on their website.
Okay.
I believe they do. At least they used to.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah, they have classes. And honestly, every class I've taken has been a DS Murphy class. But I like when there's different instructors because I feel like I get a little different information from each one, a little different insight. I mean, I'm trying to think of what the example was. There was something that like quite a few say they don't consider, and I know what's a bedroom, what constitutes a bedroom.
Yeah.
And I've one DS Murphy appraiser I've gone to a class of says it doesn't have to have a closet. He said, they can buy one of those IKEA wardrobe things in it, and that can be a closet. Right. As long as it's got the egress, and a bathroom on the same level, then it's a bedroom, full bath on the same level, it's a bedroom. Others have said they require it to have a closet. So, it is subjective.
Okay.
And I don't think the national code that or national, requirements they have to use requires a closet, because if you think of the Northeast, there's a lot of old homes up there that don't have closets, so it doesn't require them.
I think at the end of the day, we can math this thing to tears, but if the math isn't going to reveal a number that's going to cause the buyer to win, then it's all a waste of time.
And if you're working with a seller, you have to emphasize to them that in this market, you can't underprice a home.
Good. Let's talk about that for 2 seconds. If we put out a property, let's say Greta's example, okay? So debatably, let's just say this place is worth $700. Okay. If we were to put a price of $600 on it, what do you think would happen?
You would get a hell of a lot of offers.
That's right. And what do you, and then, okay, so then we'd come back to all of them and say, we are in receipt of multiple offers. So we'd like you to make any edits to your offer. And though your highest and best is now due Wednesday at 9 o'clock in the morning. The most important thing for us is the highest price. The second most important thing for us is the lowest number of dollars of concessions. Go, right? And then all of those buyers, you'll put the burden on them to determine value. And they'll determine value 100 different ways. And it doesn't even matter, because they'll come back with their highest and best, and the best set of terms that you get, that's the value. That is the value of that property on that day, set by the highest and best buyer. Make sense? If the highest and best is 800, that's what it is. There ain't a single person in the entire universe that's willing to pay 801 for it.
I'm going to respectfully disagree in one aspect.
Okay.
I'm going to respectfully disagree.
You can
get
even non-respectfully disagree if you want.
Well, no. I hear and I buy into that to a degree. I think you can underprice a property because that list price sets an emotional boundary, and people that go over, they're like, I don't want to overpay. And you're like, you're not overpaying. They're like, but emotionally, I see that list price and I feel like when I'm going $50,000, $60,000 over, I'm overpaying, even though I know I'm competing against other people. So I do think you've got to be close enough, and then like back off the gas a little bit. But you can underprice a home because at some point people are going to go, this is ridiculous. They said they would sell it to me for this, and now I'm paying this, I'm out. And
I completely agree with what you're saying. I completely agree. So I will say the people who are more sensitive to that are the people that are going to be making more emotionally driven decisions. The people who are making more data driven decisions aren't going to get fooled by that. Now here's a different question, and this just shows you even more how more complex this could get. Which is, let's say you price it for 500,000. And I don't know, maybe you misspell like east of Maine or something like that, and it doesn't get as much, where you put in the wrong school district or misspell the address or something, and it doesn't pop up where you would want it to pop up. And then let's say that you get an offer randomly, and it's an offer for 500,000 when you know damn well the home's worth 700, and God forbid it might be from a person that is a protected class. Right, a person of color, or a handicapped person, or a homosexual, or something like that. And now all of a sudden they're like, "Whoa! You said you'd sell the home for 500. I gave you an offer for 500, and now you're not willing to sell. I'm going to sue you." So, like, gosh, this business is very, very complex, right? Do y'all see how that could get really ugly really fast?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Question before we go. Wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say that scenario, and you only got one offer, and it was at list price. If you only got one offer, am I obligated to take it? Like, there's no rhyme or reason why I didn't, but
you're not obligated. Like, no one's going to stand over your shoulder and say seller sign right now. But if you present an opportunity to the marketplace and you have a person that's willing to match those terms and you don't agree to it, I'm not saying you're breaking the law, but you're certainly creating some chaos, right? I would say they definitely have the right to say, hey, I need to understand why this happened. This person came on the market at 500,000. I'm a Black woman who submitted an offer at 500,000. You didn't take it. We got problems here. And that would be a completely legitimate request for more information, right? So no, the seller is not going to be like, the cops are not going to take their hand and sign the contract, but they're definitely setting themselves up for a huge amount of problems.
So how long can a property, let's just say that you did only get one offer and you didn't accept it immediately. You don't have any terms in the listing that says highest and best this day. Can I allow my offer to sit for at least 2 weeks just so I can get maximum exposure in the event, you know, like in the situation that I only got one and that's not the one that I wanted to take.
I mean,
but
again,
I haven't declined that one yet.
The seller is under no mandate to counter or respond or sign. But if the buyer puts out an offer that appears to meet the terms that the seller is seeking, the seller can dress it up however they want. But I think the buyer would still have a case to say, hey, I think something funny is going on here. And I want the brokers to be involved. And I want I'm going to send this to the news and I want some answers because I feel like my request was not addressed or was not respected, or I think they canceled it, or they said no because of this. I think they said no because I have a handicapped child. I think they said no because my wife is a woman or whatever, right? It could be anything. So you just want to be aware of that.
Okay. So in other words, don't price a property at a price that you wouldn't be willing to take.
That is the summary statement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's the summary.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you for helping us wrap that idea up, Greta. You know, guys, we live in a very litigious society, and some lawsuits have a lot of merit and some lawsuits potentially don't have any merit, yet they're still messy. And so my recommendation to you is just be aware and protect yourself, get things in writing, right? You know, there's a lot of people that are looking for trouble. And then there's a lot of people who have been taken advantage of or screwed, and they want answers, and I don't blame them, right? So just be aware that every conversation you have, you're being assessed, you're being judged. Is that fair? All right, guys, I think this is the longest morning huddle we've ever had, which hopefully means that you guys got a lot of value. So I appreciate you being here, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Bill.